So without further ado, I would like to introduce the first panel titled Open Balkan and Open Banking. Ognjen Vlačina, where are you, Ognjen? Please join us on stage, and he will be moderating the panel. He's a payment guru, currently working for INGKA, but he also writes for Buka magazine and has nearly 20 years experience. He has spent about 20 years in finance, so let's please welcome him and his guests.
Give me just a second, yeah. Thank you, good morning. Hello everyone, zdravo. Today we have an honor, group of the people to open this great event. So we will talk about open banking. When we were preparing this conference, and I was speaking with Jasna, and then I said, I had a vision, I see the map of open Balkan and open banking. So in open Balkan, it's a group of the countries. In open banking, it's a whole, because it's missing open banking. So we were laughing, but that was kind of idea, and today we will not speak about policy. We will speak about economics, development, and how we can be better. So we have some super great people here with us, and I would like to call them on the stage. So first we have Ivan Babić. He's a founder and the CEO of Alter Media. Welcome. He's a fintech founder with more than 20 years of experience of being a business owner. He said the non-IT person in an IT world building IT products. Interesting, yeah. Next we have the Linda Shomo. She's founder and CEO of EasyPay. With some figures, she said 32 years of experience in IT leadership, out of which 25 in financial sector. That's really great. Women founders and CEO in the Balkans fintech sector, numerous awards and leading role in the digital financial revolution. Also, she is the chair of the Digital Business Committee at the American Chamber of Commerce in Albania. Yeah, great. Next, we have the Dr. Pavel Shust, digital financial service regulatory expert coming from IFC. He's a policy expert in digital financial regulation with over 13 years of experience working with governments and financial institutions across Central Asia, Eastern Europe, Africa, and the Pacific. He drafts laws and regulatory frameworks on open banking, use of data and finance, know your customer, and regulatory sandboxes. So very interesting and very broad coverage from the perspectives and from the markets. Yeah. And last, not the least, let's say so, yeah. Radmila Božidar, head of digital banking department, Erste Bank, Novi Sad. She has over 17 years of experience in pioneering innovative banking products and services, including digital banking, card solution, and call center management. I would say she's successfully flying in the permanent transformative change in the banking landscape. Beyond technology, Radmila is also nature enthusiast and ESG lover and supporter. And finally, I'm really glad that I see two ladies and two men, so we are really transparent and supporting the equality. Yeah. In INGKA, we really appreciate that. So we can start with the first question. I will go to Linda to open the discussion, and then kind of a like question is, what is open banking at all? How would you define it after now you have this broad and practical experience in past several years? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So I can stay for hours talking about this term already after almost 2 years working on this subject with my team. For those of you who doesn't know me, EasyPay, I'm the founder of EasyPay, as already introduced. And EasyPay is the leading fintech in Albania. We are an EMI by license, electronic money issuer. And we are in the market since 2010. And since 2015, we got a real license. Initially, we were financial institution non-bank, and then we relicensed as electronic money issuer. And since that time, we have been offering digital payments in the country. We already offer more than 80 digital services, including all utility bills, mobile top-ups, pay TV, taxis, etc., as well as we are in the remittance market. Since 2 years, we have been working hard for open banking to happen in Albania. Last November, we got the license. Finally, we got the license for open banking based on the new payment law, which came into power in 2020 in Albania. So it took almost 4 years to happen. And this year, in February 2025, we finally had the first transaction live with open banking. And we have already finished the integration with all the banks. There are 8 banks in Albania. It has been a very hard work. And now we are switching, because we have been doing all the tests in production, and now we are switching live bank by bank. This is what is open banking for us as EasyPay so far. So we have been building the infrastructure, and I can talk long about that later on together with the panelists. Regarding, let's see, from a customer point of view, we all know that open banking means new opportunities for the customers, new services, faster, cheaper services. We are looking for better personal finance controlling. We all know what the customer can do with open banking already. So meaning from one application, he or she can manage the funds wherever the funds are in whatever the banks from one application, not going from one mobile banking application to another. Just a simple example. From banks' point of view, I would rather let the discussion to banks to talk longer, but as I see is new kind of monetization. It's a requirement by law, so it's a compliance check by anyway. But anyway, I would see this as a mindset shift. It's a blueprint for banks to open, to be relevant in the API economy. This is how the banks, and we fintechs should see the open banking right now. I can share, I let the space to other panelists, and we promised to do an interactive discussion like we did last night. We met all together, and I think that these interactive discussions are always more attractive. So I let the floor to other panelists, and then we will discuss from practical point of view what we did so far.
Thank you. Any other comment on the definition of open banking? So if you are talking with somebody who don't know anything about this, so how you would describe to somebody? What's the open banking? The concept and...
Me? Yeah.
You and everyone else, yeah.
The concept in itself should be defined by the people, but from my point of view, it's something that kind of gives possibilities to the customers, actually to the banks and fintechs, to offer new products in a much easier way in order to kind of fulfill the need of the market, which there isn't at the moment, cannot be fulfilled at this very moment. So I don't see open banking as a regulatory thing, but as a chance to build some new things upon in order to give new possibilities to customers, actually.
Radmila? Yeah, thanks.
Yes, thank you. I would also agree with Ivan that it's the aim of the game is to create different ecosystem, to open the possibilities for different players, to bring the value for the customer at the end. So that would be the aim. But the base ground are regulators. So for us as a banks, there is this complex implementation, which is currently the main point in Serbia, since our regulator announced this regulation. And in these months, we as a banks are actually trying to understand what are all technical details that we should implement. So basically, open banking as such should bring value to the customers, but there as a base for that, we have complex technical implementation, which should be, let's say, explained in more details. But open banking is not only about exposing APIs. That's what's important to understand. So basically, that's why the story is complex, because banks previously, we were something like gatekeepers. We used to keep the data, to build strong firewalls around everything, to keep everything safe and secure and closed. And now it's a kind of also mindset shift to open things, to share the data in a controlled ecosystem. So basically, this first part should be done with regulators and with the banks as the owners of the system currently, but then to allow other players to come and to, at the end, create some better experience, transparency, and yes.
Thank you. Pavel, please.
Yesterday we agreed that this panel will be discussion, so I will start from the beginning. I do not agree. Most of the panelists, I think you're talking about outcomes, but the question is, what is open banking? So for me, open banking is the changing of the structure of the market and the role of the banks. Just imagine the airlines. Linda, you already know the story. We are migrating from one panel to another. But imagine the airlines. Some people are buying tickets online. Some people are buying them through travel agencies. Some people like us are buying it for our employer through some business travel agency, right? But we all meet at the departure gate, because airline job is not to sell the tickets. The airline job is taking us from point A to point B. In the same way, bank's job is to take money from point A to point B. And through open banking, we can allow third-party providers to build some value-added services over this infrastructure, meaning that eventually banks are becoming transparent, sometimes even invisible to the customers, and this will allow us to build the same types of market structure that we have in energy, in water supply, in internet supply, and many other industries as well.
But banks will say, you are using our infrastructure for building new product by yourself.
Yes, but they're earning money from providing this infrastructure. So they're still gatekeepers. We are not taking the fees or commissions from the banks. They are very important parts of the financial market infrastructure.
But they are sharing the data with you? With the open bankers?
Yeah, monetization of those data is also opportunity for the banks. Mm-hmm. I would say we had this game in European Union market maybe even 10 years ago, when we were all talking about disruption and what kind of change this will bring to banks, to financial institutions. But at the end, the story is that if we find a way to collaborate, that's opportunity for all the players on the market.
Yeah, and always challenge for a regulator. Please, Linda.
Yeah, and I would say we all, as Western Balkan, are looking forward to join the EU. And this is part of the EU reform, so it's a kind of mandatory homework to do. But apart from that, if we see the development in EU market, 7 years ago, since 2018, when PSD2 implementation happened, initially, they were like us, so they saw it like us, maybe like banks, not like fintechs. They saw it as a compliance checklist, so they should do because to be compliant with the law. But now you see that open banking is flourishing in Europe, especially in UK. So banks are now understanding the potential and are adapting to this new ecosystem, because it's a totally new ecosystem. It's coming from the digitalization of the economy worldwide. We have to adapt. Whoever doesn't adapt, we see that as a short-term strategy. So,
yeah, thank you, guys. So maybe we can go with the next question. Here we were very successful. Thank you. So, Ivan, can you elaborate a bit on the current relationship between fintech and banks, and how you see the future open banking initiative landing into this equation. We were discussing on the edge this topic, so we mentioned compliance, the speed, the business need, and everything. So we have something today, and how this fit into the future from your experience.
Thank you for the question. I think first there needs to be a clarification on perspectives of how each side sees the other one. Like the banks, for decades they were heavily regulated, enclosed to themselves, not open. So I guess it's hard for them to kind of allow something within their systems. And that is something that Pavel was probably saying about the change of the mindset and everything. But from the other side, you have fintechs that are thinking from their own perspective, which is having a product that does something, probably does it good. But then again, in my opinion, the fintechs need to do their own KYC, I mean, knowing your customers in banks, and try to understand their position, because they're still regulated and they cannot jump over some regulations just for any type of product. And that change, it's not kind of a 0 to 1. It's a journey that will take some time, and you need to be able to actually talk to from both sides. Banks need to talk to the fintechs and try to find a way to do it. And also fintechs need to understand the position of the bank in order to be able to kind of promote and push their product into the market. I mean, this is actually more for the fintechs, in my opinion, because it took me some time, not a long time, to actually understand that. And once I understood the situation, what is going on, then the traction actually happened. Because otherwise you would be just hitting the wall, not doing anything, because you can't go through it in the way you would like to, because it's not the same world. And why I'm saying this, because for more than 2 decades I was in the non-financial world business, and over there the tax authorities are everything. You just don't want to cross paths with them. In the financial world, tax authorities are not an issue. It's national banks. And it's a whole different perspective which you need to deal with in order to kind of offer your product to them. But then again, from the bank's kind of a perspective, you asked what they should do actually in a way. They just need to be more open. And I completely understand that it's not possible for them to embrace any new product as such and put it on the market. But there should be some kind of environments within the banks to do some testing, like to do some mock-ups and proof of concepts without going to the national banks and regulation to see if that actually works. They just need to be a bit more open, because the way the world is actually developing at the moment, the speed is just increasing. It's not going to decrease. And the ones that are actually not following the flow, they were going to stay far behind than the ones that are trying to follow, at least. And imagine those ones that actually do follow the flow. They were way in front of the market in their own kind of a system, be that banks or fintechs, doesn't matter who, but they just need to follow the speed of the world that is actually happening at this very moment.
Okay. Thank you. Any comment from others?
I would completely agree with everything what Ivan said. Very diplomatic answer, covering both sides. Yes, it is. Basically, you know, I need to emphasize once again, I don't think that we have issue with the purpose or the missing of will from the bank side. But currently on Serbian market, we're in the phase where a lot of job needs to be done prior to the use cases which needs to come. And to be completely transparent, the deadlines that are announced are really not putting us in a position to think like in some very designful way, but to, you know, we just need to do a lot of technical stuff currently, and that's why maybe this part of collaboration is missing at the time. And that's why I would also share that, from my opinion, it would be much better that we have some different focuses, not only to be compliant with the law, but, you know, from banking position, we are highly regulated, and we need first to to have this check mark, like we are compliant, because everything out of that is not acceptable. And also one more point I would like to share, you know, when my colleagues from Fintechs are talking about this, how banks perceive these things, all the time I'm reflecting to internal discussion within the banks where, you know, you also have different emotions or different perceptions of this, because you have these control functions within every bank where the aim and the main focus is to be compliant and to save. And then you have other parts of the bank for which, and that part is what I'm representing within my company, is we need to bring some value to the customers, some very good digital experience. And for these positions, cooperations with fintechs is something that we can wait for it, to open this part and to be able to bring something new to our clients. It's something that will really create better experience for them.
I have to add another thing, just because in the last couple of years, what I've seen, when there is a need to do something, when the banks see something happening on the market, what they usually do is actually talk to their vendor who is doing that something for them for 10, 20 years. And they're not actually equipped for that kind of service. And because, this is just my opinion, they go to them because they're big, they're huge, they've done things for them, but actually their size is actually inversely proportional to the speed they're going to deliver the product. And usually they're not even within themselves able to deliver such a specific small service that might be of a need. And that is actually the point where the banks should be talking to fintechs, because they're more agile, faster, they can do things way quicker, and actually be able, that's what I was saying earlier, they could actually test it in a kind of a closed environment, and a product environment, or a testing environment, things, is it going to work or not? And over here, the fintechs, we'll call them whatever, if they're fintechs at all, but small SaaS companies, things like that, they're way faster in delivering things, but then again, they don't get a chance because they all, we're going to not name names, but they all go to a couple of those big companies and ask them to do that thing, and that can wait for a year, year and a half, and the time is just gone.
I fully agree. I think you here open a couple more additional questions, like a trust. So you're going to green market and you buy from the same person all the time. So you don't have time, or you don't want to invest to explore it. So it's easier, you have trust, this guy delivered to you something, so you just continue. Maybe that's the kind of pattern or habit. And also the banking was very popular 10, 15 years ago, high salaries, attracting talents. Today, not so sure, how young people would like to work in a banking or see themselves. So this can be also one additional topic we can, but we will not touch it today. But it's a good overview, because then we are really seeing the challenges. It's not just about open banking regulators, it's really a lot of dimension of the challenge we are seeing here. Next question going to the Pavel, having in mind your broad experience and the knowledge, and we spoke last night, I mentioned Mongolia and some Central Asia markets, and then Eastern Europe, a lot of countries you are working with. And then can you please share with us some good example of open banking preparation before launching it to the market? And then what can be done from the fintech side, apart from this, what you mentioned, regulators, commercials, to avoid losing the rhythm or dropping the ball, so making the same mistakes somebody already did in some other market. So for example, we know that you mentioned the Great Britain, but also in Nordic markets, the open banking is far more developed. They have also some challenges, but it's far in front of us. So maybe something like that,
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. Getting back to that it's not very, young people don't want to work for the banks. We had conversations one time with the CEO of one of the largest Central Asian banks. And he was complaining that, I cannot hire IT talent. I even allowed them not to wear ties on Fridays. Like, what else can I do? There is, the best experience ever for everyone. Why don't they come to us? That's a very good question about what can be done and what should be done. I'll start with the story that Linda, again, also knows. We spoke with one of the regulators here in Western Balkans, and we were talking about technical implementation of open banking and everything, and we're discussing the regulation, what can be changed. And then the meeting comes to the end, and the lady from the regulator turns to me and says, Pavel, why are we doing this? So by the show of hands, we all know the outcomes, like it's more transparent, new services, etc. But from the show of hands, how many people in the audience who knows why open banking was actually implemented in PSD2 10 years ago? Anyone? Just show the hands. Do you know why it appeared there? Why? Yes, why? Yes, why people in Brussels were sitting there writing PSD2 and just out of blue saying, oh, but don't include open banking there. Because PSD2 can work without open banking, SEPA can work without open banking, IPS can work without open banking. So the bottom line is that actually 90% of our markets don't know why it actually appeared. And this is the main problem. Before we go to the use cases, to technical implementation, and I agree with Linda that sometimes often this is the just compliance check in a way, right? And if it's compliance check, this is just kind of sunk cost. Second thing, and also Radmila, I agree with you that it's very difficult to align between different departments within the bank, but cases are very important because, and this is especially for fintechs, what we hear from different, and I see lots of different discussions between fintechs and banks, and our job as IFC is to kind of broker those relationships as an honest broker, as an independent party. I see them sitting at the table in front of each other, and banks say, this is the cost, we don't want to share data. And fintechs are just, pointing fingers saying, you must do this is a mandatory. And then we're asking, what kind of use cases you want to propose. And then fintechs don't have to say anything. We want data, but why do you want data? Do you have any real show? Because you need to show to your partners, and banks are your partners, even though those are mandatory APIs. You need to show why you need this data. And vice versa. Banks are saying, this is our data, and you mentioned this, we don't want to share it. Okay, how are you using it right now? And most of the banks are not using it at all. So if you're not using it at all, and I can continue lots of different examples of how it goes. So coordination with banks, don't consider banks versus fintechs, as we did, do you remember on those conferences 10 years ago, banks will all die. They will be all fintech and Bitcoin and nothing else, right? People in sweaters and everything. But banks are still there, okay? So it's not versus something, but it's this cooperation, and you should be open about, really open about it. Sharing the examples, what kind of use cases you want to show, etc. And the final one, maybe it's unpopular opinion, but I will say it. To be successful, you need to be behind the wheel. Yesterday, we had a very interesting discussion about open finance in Serbia. And we proposed to one of our partners to discuss the ideas of implementing open finance, which is the step forward for insurance companies, for other leasing companies, open finance. And they told us, let's wait for the regulator. And we heard that in many other countries as well. You already waited for the regulator in the UK and in the European Union for IPS. We already waited for some fintech developments from regulators. We already waited for electronic KYC and eIDAS frameworks, which are extremely complicated and costly for electronic KYC. We have already waited for open banking. And then, I'm not saying this is the case for Serbia, but this is the case for many other markets. And then banks are coming to us saying, why those requirements are not like we want them to be. Of course they are not like we want them to be, because you were never behind the wheel. You never proposed them. You just waited for regulator to write it for you, and then IFC and the World Bank came and we wrote them for the regulator. And that's, we implemented as much as possible from the private sector perspective, but without your voice, it's impossible. So I know this sounds weird and like post from LinkedIn, but please be proactive. Think forward. If you're working on compliance within the bank, also think about the strategy for your bank. What will be the strategy within 10 years? Don't be scared that all customers will leave you because you opened up APIs. Because if you're scared about this, if customer has a choice and leaves you, you have much bigger problems than open banking if you're just keeping them in a cage. So please be proactive. Those markets that show the resilience, like Nordea Bank in Northern Europe, they opened up APIs before PSD2 came into force. They developed developer portal, compliance APIs together with extended and premium APIs all together and not in stages. And this is how they build the business case. So please do be proactive, talk to each other, and be honest. Again, I know this sounds like LinkedIn post, but I think this is the most important thing and most important lessons that we learned from other jurisdictions.
Thank you very much. I would just add, sorry, Ivan, that one small note, it's my remark, that one of the biggest innovation in Serbia came from a regulator, instant payment system. So this is also show kind of a paradox on the market. It should come from the Fintech, from the alliances, from the different initiatives, but yeah.
Exactly, for the last 5 years, if I may say so, the most innovations are coming from regulators. In the UK, which was a great example, so regulator told banks, you should, we are quite advanced country, by the way, so we need instant payments. And then banks were sitting like, I don't know, we cannot agree. And then at some point, Ministry of Finance, Treasury said, you must do it. Here is the mandate, you must do it. Why they couldn't do it before? I mean, this is the secret of $1 million, but here we go.
Yeah,
Ivan,
I completely agree with Pavel, and that was actually my point when I was saying the bank should do some proof of concept and things like that. They should actually, because you were saying about trust with the big companies that they have long decades relations with, but that is the point, because they cannot do as many iterations on those small things for the banks to change, to do something and be completely proactive and come up with some new solutions that nobody else has done. That is actually the thing that is going to push them forward, even though they're regulated in their own kind of business, but some things they might not be as hard to do. It just comes from within. Do you have a will to do it or you don't? And that is actually where fintechs or SaaS companies, however you call them, actually can help them to speed up the process because of their agility.
Yeah, thank you.
I completely agree with Pavel and Ivan, but I wouldn't say exactly that the innovation is coming from regulators. For sure, our countries are fully regulated. That's why it looks that it's starting from the regulators. I think that most of the innovations in our countries is coming from EU. Are some kind of mandatory, as I mentioned, homeworks, like SEPA, like instant payment. Albania is as well coming to instant payment system very soon, like open banking. And who gives priority to this big project, and what priority they give depend from one institution to another. So I understand banks from this point of view, because having different big projects parallelly happening, it's not an easy job. And how to allocate resources, and which of these new projects, big projects, is going to give more profits to the bank, this is not an easy job. But it's mandatory to happen. So in the age of AI and real-time payments, it's not being part of it. It's like I found it somewhere and I like it. It's like having a mobile without the internet. So banks have to understand that they like it or not, you have to go to this process. You have to go to open API. You have to go to open data in a secure way, for sure. This is very important. It's not an easy job. I can share some experiences from Albania regarding this, but it's always priority. For example, in Albania, we gave first priority to this project, open banking, which was not the case from the banks. And somehow I understand that, because banks in Albania, I think maybe in Serbia as well, are mainly traditional banks, are not neobanks. This way, they already have enough profits from loans and deposits. So why should they invent something which still they don't know how many profits it will come? So initially, so different priorities from different perspectives gives this kind of conflicts. We were always front runners asking banks that, I'm expecting you to integrate, so what is happening? But we don't see the same reaction from the bank, whatever the reasons. But it takes two to play tango, and we were blocked. That is the regulatory action is very, very important. So at least in Albania, I think in Serbia will be the same. Deadline is very important, but it should be a real deadline. I understand that for the banks it's not, the deadlines are not so good, and sometimes time are restricted, But if it's not a real deadline, it will be postponed and never coming. In Albania, for example, it was a push from the government. It was a high-level table from Prime Minister, and he did a real deadline, and he said, so this is the last deadline I gave to banks and I gave to central bank. And then open banking happened. So maybe it's part of the Balkan culture. We need some push for the innovation to come, but it's very important to give priority. I don't see this priority from the banks, but I think it will come.
Thank you. I have a question for Radmila. Yeah. So what do you see as the biggest challenge within commercial banks in understanding and applying open banking concepts? You already touched something and others here, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment this part with what Linda mentioned. When I said that the deadlines are tight, it's not only about the effort that banks should or focus or resources that banks should dedicate it to compliance. Actually, the main point is that with the short deadlines, you usually cannot focus on the quality. So here, the goal is not only to expose some APIs. We see the situation in European Union with PSD2, then PSD3, whatever. It's not the goal only to, do this compliance check and say we are there, but that we need to have enough time to focus on quality if we want to have usability of that what we are going to build, and that should be the aim for all of us. And I would say that focus during our discussion was mainly on the missing of the bill on the bank side. Not so sure. I cannot fully declaim that part, but the understanding needs to be there that burden of the implementation is on the bank side, but also some other parts that we were not mentioning until now, and that's some kind of different types of risks that banks is used to analyze and to think about that. This is our story from the beginning: payments, clients, complaints, and everything else. That's the complete story that needs to be defined and elaborated within all the players on the market if we want to have success with the open banking. So that would be.
That's why you are here, to have different angles, yeah. Thank you.
May I ask a follow-up question, Radmila, if I may? Because I'm really interested. I know that in the European Union and other parts of the world, payment business is becoming low marginal because of the interchange regulation, EPS fees, etc. Is it the same what is happening in Serbia in terms of marginality?
Yes.
And how banks are reacting? Do you think open banking might be kind of a way
Yes,
to...
that's why I'm saying I think that we can have opportunity as a banks in open banking as well. Yes, of course. We also have these multi-bank solutions, especially in Serbian market, which are not functioning through open banking, but through different infrastructure. So basically, some of the sharing of this, not only the data of the customer, but also this part of this layer with customer relationship, which is usually mentioned as a threat in this open banking story, is something that we are already doing. So having appropriate technology which will enable us to use it all on the market as well, but not bring additional risk in terms of profit for the banks, I would say. But yes, these interchange fees and everything that you mentioned are already applied here. And one more comment from my side regarding this instant payment that we were mentioning. I think that with instant payment in Serbia that is in place for already, 7 years, from 2018 in terms of 24/7, yes. We have very good base ground for very good use cases in open banking, which is also important. It's not only, Pavel, you are just excluding these use cases as a part of discussion, but I would say at the end of the story, that's the most important part. If we create something valuable, that it will be used. If not, nothing will happen. So basically this, not only in terms of 24/7, but also some additional features that were provided within instant payment framework, this alias ID, common national database of phone numbers, etc., could also be very good base ground for some innovative journeys for the clients. So for fintechs, that is very, I would say that's strong thing on Serbian market that they should think about, how to use the infrastructure that is already here.
Thank you very much. So we are approaching the end of the panel. Before we close, I would like to thank you. I think we heard the fireworks of the attitudes, knowledge, experience, everything, future. I'm very glad we had the banking also here, just to confront a little bit in a nice way. So last sentence from you, what is the future of the open banking in the region? Start with Ivan, and very briefly, how do you see it?
Well, the future, I don't know how fast it will happen, but I can see it as we were saying yesterday, like roaming agreements on telco. There is no more roaming and it is actually working. Why shouldn't be the same thing with open banking? Like, that is my take on that.
Thank you. Linda?
Yeah, with all this project, as mentioned, SEPA, instant payment, open banking, I see an much better interconnected Western Balkan and cheaper and faster cross-border payments, which I think is the bottleneck of the Balkan already. We know that.
Fully agree. Thank you. Pavel?
Yes, I'll tell you what I'm telling in all the markets. Everything is going to be all right. Everything will work. You will have amazing kind of payment railways, and you have lots of different cars going over those railways. Everything is going to be all right.
Bob Marley, yeah?
Don't worry.
Yes, don't worry, just don't worry.
Thank you. Radmila?
What to say after disclosure? I would say that what we all have on these badges, let's be open as open banking. We will see.
Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed. I did, yeah? Please.